Big updates on Manchester United. From a £4 million mistake and a potential teenage debut, to transfer plans and a lucky omen ahead of Everton. Stay tuned for all the details. Manchester United's reasons for Dan Ashworth axe emerge as £4 million mistake admitted. Manchester United axed Dan Ashworth after just 5 months at the club due to concerns over his ability to get things done. United appointed Ashworth as sporting director last July, with his move from Newcastle delayed by protracted negotiations. However, Ashworth lasted just 5 months in the role and was sacked in December, with his departure costing United a total of £4.1 million. That figure covers the compensation paid to Newcastle and the payoff Ashworth received when he left Old Trafford. It has now emerged that United decided to pull the trigger after realizing his football knowledge was not what they had hoped for. According to the Daily Mail, the Red Devils failed to do enough due diligence on Ashworth. The report adds that new co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe wanted to bring in British expertise, but Ashworth's perspective was seen as very UK-focused. They also took issue with suggestions for potential replacements for Erik ten Hag and a presentation he gave on the state of the club. Ashworth's candidates were viewed as too conservative and did not line up with the new regimes. His presentation was also seen as heavy on negatives and light on solutions, with one source quoted as saying, "On the compass can do is listed under words we like. They did not see enough can do." The club have decided against appointing a replacement, with CEO Omar Barada very hands-on at Carrington and technical director Jason Wilcox viewed as a key link between the players and club chiefs. Christopher Vival has also been working as director of recruit on an interim basis, and the Manchester Evening News are reporting that his appointment is set to be made permanent by INEOS. Vival has been involved in United's transfer business across the last 2 windows, having previously spent 7 months as Chelsea's technical director following spells with RB Leipzig and Hoffenheim. United are currently languishing 15th in the Premier League and are on course to have their worst campaign in 51 years. The Red Devils will be hoping to get back to winning ways on Saturday when they take on Everton at Goodison Park. Ruben Amorim can unleash Manchester United's next teenage debutant versus Everton. Ruben Amorim can unleash Manchester United's next teenage debutant versus Everton. Ruben Amorim is likely to find his Man United squad stretched again this weekend, and he can turn to another teenager off the bench to help fill the void. Few head coaches or managers turn to their substitutes bench quite as often as Ruben Amorim does, which must have made it all the more difficult for the Manchester United boss to ignore his replacements at Tottenham last weekend. Amorim usually uses all 5 substitutes in a game, and his record since he's been at Old Trafford shows how often he likes to turn to his bench. Until that game at Spurs, he made 90 out of a possible 100 changes in his 20 games in charge, only twice making just 3 in-game alterations. The 40-year-old system demands a high-energy output, and the changes are often about fresh legs. Even in games, he hasn't moved away from his 3-4-2-1 shape at Old Trafford, so switching personnel tend to be about physicality or trying something different. His switches have often worked well. But in North London last weekend, he was hamstrung by what must be the most inexperienced subs bench he has ever seen sat behind him. Victor Lindelof was the only one of the 9 players to have played for the club before, and he hadn't been featured for 2 months. The other 8 players were yet to play for United, and the inexperience on the bench was more remarkable. In the end, Amorim waited until stoppage time to bring on 17-year-old striker Cheeto Obi, who didn't get a touch of the ball on his professional debut. Amorim should have a little more experience available to him this weekend. Lenny Yoro and Christian Eriksen should be back from illness, and Manuel Ugarte and Toby Collier might have a chance of recovering from the knocks that kept them out of last weekend. But he will still be without Ahmad and Kabi Mainoo, and some youthful attacking reinforcements will need to be on the bench. Cheeto Obi will surely be handed another chance, and Amorim should keep faith with 19-year-old attacking midfielder Jack Morehouse, who can make an impact off the bench with his ball-carrying skills. Amorim must have been tempted to turn to Morehouse last week as one of his replacements. The teenager has enjoyed a rapid rise in academy circles this season, scoring 3 times in his last 4 Premier League 2 appearances, including a brace in a superb performance against Southampton in December. He also caught the eye in the National League Cup, a new competition for United's under-21s pitting them against non-league clubs. He scored against Oldham and ran the midfield against Altrincham, regularly driving through the middle of the pitch with the ball to get his side on the attack. Morehouse made his debut for the under-18s when he was still 15, but his progress has really accelerated this season. He has been involved in some first-team training. Man United's summer transfer plan already clear after signing Jarrad Branthwaite alternative. Manchester United are set to come up against one of their former transfer targets this weekend when they travel to Goodison Park to take on fellow strugglers Everton. United were linked with a big money move for Toffees defender Jarrad Branthwaite last summer under former boss Erik ten Hag, but a move to Old Trafford would not come to fruition, despite offers being made. Instead, United would sign two more of ten Hag's former players, Matthijs de Ligt and Noussair Mazraoui, in an attempt to bolster their backline. The Reds had been quoted a transfer fee in excess of £70 million for the 22-year-old defender last summer, instead spending £42.7 million on de Ligt and £17 million on Mazraoui with add-ons included. The latter of the two has been arguably the most consistent summer signing for United this season, although their frailties at the back really have not improved. Branthwaite has continued to be linked with a move to Old Trafford, though United may well have already signed his alternative last month. Amorim's side brought in promising defender Aiden Heaven from Arsenal last month, with the 18-year-old signed on as a first-team player. Jason Wilcox, who works as technical director at the club, said, "We are delighted Aiden has joined Manchester United. He is already an extremely talented defender who is ready to join our first-team squad in order to maximize his development. This club has a phenomenal track record of supporting young players, and we believe Aiden is in the perfect place to reach his excellent potential." Although he's yet to make his competitive debut for United's first team, Heaven was named on the bench for the recent defeat at Spurs, and he has since gone on to make his debut for the U21s against Fulham earlier this week. Playing as a left-sided centre-half, Heaven played 45 minutes in the Premier League 2 clash and looked impressive alongside Reece Monroe for Travis Binion's side. The visitors did run out 1-0 winners, but new man Heaven was not on the pitch when Fulham opened the scoring, after completing a pre-planned substitution at the break. It remains to be seen whether Heaven will be given an opportunity in the first team between now and the end of the season, but for £1.5 million, the youngster could be an ideal cut-price alternative to Branthwaite, albeit there's a long way to go until he's at that level. Amorim admitted United would need to sell players before they can reinvest into their playing squad this summer, and the recent accounts shared by the club only highlight the need to do so. It's highly unlikely United will be parting with a fee in the region of £70 million, unless they can offload a number of stars before then. For now, the plan will be to eventually integrate Heaven into the starting 11. Manchester United have surprised lucky Omen ahead of Everton Premier League trip. When Manchester United travels to Everton in the Premier League on Saturday, they could benefit from a fortunate omen. The Reds will take on the Toffees at lunchtime this weekend as they kick off the Premier League weekend on Merseyside. This kickoff time is not one that often crops up on the United fixture list, but when it does, they have a good record in those games. During the last 9 matches played in the Premier League at 12:30, United have been victorious on 7 occasions. This includes a victory over Saturday's opponents Everton and local rivals Manchester City. United will hope that their recent success at lunchtime will inspire a change of fortunes for them. After Sunday's 1-0 defeat at Tottenham Hotspur, the Reds have dropped to the lowly position of 15th, just 12 points above the relegation zone. Alarmingly, their current points tally of 29 would only be enough to save them in 2 of the last 10 Premier League campaigns. On average during this time period, clubs have needed to reach 35 points to avoid relegation to the Championship. Ruben Amorim's side are not favourites to be relegated at this stage, but there is a concern regarding where the next victory will come from. United's options in attack are limited following the injury to Ahmad, with both Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee struggling for goals too. United last tasted victory in the Premier League at the end of January after Lisandro Martinez's brilliant strike. The Argentine defender will be out for a significant period of time after suffering an injury during the clash with Crystal Palace earlier this month.